It's for I don't have my bag. I don't know what the hell it is. So my name's Bill Carter. I can't read it, so I got to study. I don't want to put too much. Well, how can I have this reading to you? Yeah. And your hands. It's over here. They started in here. Stay warm. Yeah. Yeah, good. They still down there in Cape? Yes. No, we made it bad. We're on Green Meadow. Down there. Nice. Okay. Yeah. Nice. Yeah. I'm excited. I was excited to get out of there. It's when it's chilly right now. Yes, and I would. I was like, too bad. Yeah. Yeah, like everything. That's like
So they'll be up here.
Her hands did all the secrets. What do you think? That would be bad. She's the face of brothers. Right. Then the prince of Venus. Oh, yeah.
Yes, okay, I was like, you can't like.
Here it is. Yeah, I think that's pretty fun. Oh, you are even close. I'm sorry. No.
Okay. Chance we can have another table. Yeah, this is great. Well, I could go there.
That was my. Yeah, like, I was anything. Well,
No, it was. There's 30.
When you put back the, I don't know. You said I'm taking years. The snow. The snow. There we go. That's this. Wanting a third one?
Yeah. Great, so she takes notes. It's. When is this supposed to be?
Whenever I'm done talking.
Yeah.
And I have Yep.
Yeah. Is it someone's water?
No, we just grandfathers.
Helena, I need you to move your chair and you're not command.
There we go.
Okay. Great chance to
Yeah, you can. Yeah. And a couple minutes of anybody needs to grab a drink or something.
stay up.
It's all good.
This is 40 seconds. So, no, I don't have a 5 second. It's just how I hear it twice. You guys don't win. I mean, when I walk out when you accept yes, that's not. It's actually.
Yeah.
Nothing other than, so I apologize in advance. Yep. 215.
Sounds good. Thank you for doing that.
Oh, there we go. Great. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. By the days, I'm going to stand over. Maybe that'll work. Yep.
Microphones.
Hello. There we go. Maybe. Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight.
Yeah.
It's working, Kirby.
You need some check also.
Text.
I need a lot of help.
That's all I know how to say. It's You changed that?
Let's see, are you, that's say 41, I can't see.
Hello, hello.
Yes.
So that's your.
Yep.
Hello.
And the batteries there.
Yeah, but they just added the boundaries.
That's weird.
Check.
Maybe shut this one off a bit, certainly.
What's that?
We could put it on this one.
It doesn't.
Oh, we can't. Yeah. Let's try this one.
Well, why don't you try a different microphone?
This one didn't work?
Just means a sound of the mouse.
No, I know, but we switch them.
That seems like a bad idea.
You don't want to switch them?
Bad idea.
To switch this? Use this speaker instead of this speaker?
It's the microphone.
Not that.
Check.
Try with the microphone. Don't.
Check, 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 check.
That works. 36 works. So 36 works and do your.
Whoever you can fix the mics gets elected.
Do you not know how to work this stuff? Come on.
Well, they were working.
Although this battery's almost dead, isn't it?
Check, 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 check.
Yeah, 36 is dead. You're 41 on that. 41's dead. That's just bad. So, is 40. Jacob, is yours working?
They're all.
Hello, hello, hello. That's a little better. Check, check,
Well, then just turn it up from here.
check, 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 check.
21
Still gets.
21 works. And
Hello. Yep. Check.
those two work, and then turn off the other two, and you should be fine.
One of these days we'll get a torque. All right. Well, it's working for the moment, so we're going to get started and see what happens. Hopefully we'll get lucky. Thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight. My name is Jacob Miles. I'm the chair of the Lewis and Clark County Democrats, and we are excited to host this candidate forum for our local municipal candidates running for city commission and mayor. Each of them are going to introduce themselves. They're each going to have 3 minutes to introduce themselves, talk about themselves, their campaign. We'll go into some prepared questions that we have, and then as we're doing the prepared questions, a couple of folks will be walking around with note cards and pens, so you can write down a question that you would like to have asked of the candidates, and we will get those turned in while we're running through some of our other questions. So go ahead and start thinking about any of those questions that you might like to ask these 5 wonderful people that are joining us here tonight. Thank you, as always, to Brothers Tapworks for giving us the space to be able to do this and helping me fix the microphones when they didn't work. Please be sure to tip your bartenders. They've got wonderful food here, fantastic drinks, and we will go ahead and get started. So how about we'll just go down the line. We'll give you your 3 minutes.
All right, fantastic. I'm going to stay seated because these bar stools are very precarious, as you all know. My name is Haley McKnight, and I am running for City Commission. And I am, among so many things, I run Sage Notes Trading Post downtown on Last Chance Gulch. I run my own design and consulting firm that I mostly do for nonprofits and political candidates locally. And I'm the president of Helena Young Professionals. I came to Montana as an AmeriCorps Vista in 2017, and I served the Butte School District with No Kid Hungry, and it was one of the most life-changing experiences. Service is baked into my blood. I come from a long line of public servants and people who volunteer and make it part of their lifestyle. And that's why I want to serve you, is because serving this community that has given me so much, my career, my family, my home, would be one of the greatest privileges of my life. And, you know, we're going to hear a lot today, but I just want to say thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Brothers Tapworks, for hosting, and happy Indigenous Peoples Day.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Emily Dean. I am the third generation of our family to call Helena home, and I'm very excited to be building my family here with my husband, Matt. I currently serve on the City Commission and serve as Mayor Pro Tem, and I'm running to be the next mayor of Helena. I've spent the last 5 years on the City Commission really working to improve our systems, to improve transparency, providing quality public services, and working with a variety of different stakeholders to get results for Helena. In my day job, I work in education. I started out my career as a teacher, and that gave me an opportunity to really see how policies on paper play out in everyday lives. And it's with that same passion that I brought to education that I bring to the City Commission, and hope to do so as mayor. I believe that we are in a position where the decisions that we make over the next 4, 5, 6 years in Helena are truly going to determine what the next 30, 40, 50 years in Helena look like. We are on the cusp of a couple very large planning documents that the commission will be adopting. The first is the land use plan, which determines what development looks like in Helena over the next 20 years. The second is the long range transportation plan, which is the first opportunity for us to really have a holistic plan for what transportation is developed as in not just the Helena area, but East Helena and the greater Lewis and Clark County area. One of the things that I will be focusing on is infrastructure. I believe that we are at a truly pivotal point in terms of building infrastructure that is maintained to last. Some of that includes the Montana Avenue rail crossing, connecting our sidewalks across the community, which, as if you have ever tried to walk across the community, are in significant need. And then finally, providing effective city services for all residents across our community. I'm very honored to be here tonight. Really appreciative to the Lewis and Clark County Dems for hosting this, and excited to get into this forum. Thank you.
Hello, Helena. My name is Andy Shirtliff, and I'm running to be your next mayor. I love this town. It's the town where I met my wife. It's the town where I've started a career, where we've built a family, and it's the town where I want to be the next mayor. It's as city commissioner for the last 3 years, we've.
You're good.
All right. So for the last 3 years on the Helena City Commission, we've approved thousands of units worth of housing. We've invested millions into critical infrastructure and public safety, all on a balanced budget. I'm running for mayor because I believe in our community, and I believe that together we can build a stronger Helena. One where our city services meet the needs of our people and are responsive, that we can have clean water and safe roads, be a community where folks can find a house that they can afford in a safe neighborhood, that connect with good roads and solid sidewalks and connect to our great trails, parks, and open lands. But also, I want to be a community where we empower our small businesses, where we work with our small businesses, our partners, our key stakeholders to help empower our community. These are just some of the reasons why I'm running for mayor. My day job, I work at a nonprofit where I advocate for housing. I invest in our community by working with groups like the Helena Area Chamber of Commerce. I work with Visit Helena, and I work with the Downtown Business Improvement District to find solutions for our economy. These are just some of the things that I do right now. I'm proud of the work that's been done on the City Commission, but our work isn't done. We've got a lot of things that we need to look at. We're a growing community.
We got to be able to provide services and be a safe community. And that's why I'm running for mayor, and I hope I can earn your vote. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Ben Rigby, running for Helena City Commission. One of the biggest reasons I'm running is I'll keep the theme of a third generation water professional and by default, a third generation public servant. When my grandfather got home from Korean War in 1953, he started at a water treatment plant. And I really like to carry on that legacy. That's how I started my career in public service right here in Helena. I became a water treatment plant operator. I hold the 3 highest certifications in the for the state of Montana for water treatment, wastewater treatment, and distribution. And bringing those tools to the city commission, I think, is something you don't see every day. Being someone that's worked on the inside of the city with the city budget, one of the biggest city budgets that we have at the city in public works, I think is a tool set that I think is needed when we do get a new city manager. This commission will be helping out that city manager with the budget. And to be able to have that knowledge of how it works on the inside, I think is going to be a key of success for the next decade, 20 years, 30 years. Some of these pieces that we have in our community, we run a CIP, which is capital improvements plan, which budget out for 30 some items, even 80 years. And so to be able to have that knowledge on how those investments work, I think is key. I've seen what your dollars do for the city. The money that you put into the city budget is the money that we invest back into the city. And I think that's a tool set that really needs to be on the commission. So with that, I really do ask for your vote. And I look forward to answering your questions, and thank you.
Hi, I'm Melinda Reed. I am running for re-election to the City Commission. I am doing my level best not to be distracted by the Mariners just behind you. So I'm very sorry if you see my eyes go up, but safe lead for now. I have served on the City Commission for 3.5 years. Prior to that, I was the interim city manager during the pandemic, which gave me a really unique opportunity to learn all about our city, all about buying hand sanitizer in bulk, all about staffing the dump when you couldn't have overlapping shifts, and more importantly, how our city staff keep our city going during the absolute worst of times, which I think is great context for how we can do it during the best of times. Prior to that, I was the director of the Friendship Center here in Helena, which was also an incredible experience and a really interesting way to learn about the incredible generosity of this community and what we can do when we put our minds together. In my current day job, I work to end impunity for war crimes and crimes against humanity. And fortunately, that is completely not relevant to this job, so I will not go too much into how that is useful for this position. I decided to run again because I think we have great momentum on the things that matter. We have done a lot with housing in our community. We have done a lot with connectivity. We have done a lot with open lands and recreation, but we have more to do. There's a lot more that we could be doing. And I really want to focus us on a budget that reflects our priorities. I know that is not a glamorous thing to say, but with the limited flexibility we have with our budgets, I want to make sure we are using those funds for the things that matter most to us in this community. My top priorities are city services. I think we've all said that. This is obviously the most important thing we do as city commissioners. I want to focus on incentivizing affordable housing. I want to focus on our incredible open lands and recreation. Most people, when you talk to them about why they're here, what they love, what keeps them here, they will mention trails or open lands, and we really need to protect that resource. And I really want to support local business and innovation. I think if we look at what the Walking Mall looked like 5-6 years ago, and we look at it today, that is an incredible transformation. And we need to be a good partner to people. We need to be a city that says yes. We need to give people the space to do what they do best and make sure we are not creating any barriers or obstacles to that. So with that, thank you, and I hope I earn your vote.
Perfect. Thank you, everybody. All right, we will get into our first couple of questions here. You'll have 2 minutes to answer each of these questions, but you all did a fantastic job on the time, so thank you for that already. And I wouldn't be too distracted about a team that's up by 7 runs. All right, so our first question is on a topic that I'm sure you have all heard plenty about, but parking is becoming a big concern for people here in Helena. So what can be done as a city to help alleviate some of those parking concerns?
I love this question. Uh, so something that really got me into the way the local government works is the parking situation. I run a business right on Last Chance Gulch, and I've got a parking meter directly in front of my store. Do you know how many people come in and say, I don't come to your store very often because I hate the parking meters? It's an alarming amount of people. Just last week, I had to help a customer work the parking meter because it is not user friendly. And so, as somebody who has had to use them before and has switched to the app, I was walking her through the steps to get through it. I got stuck, and former Lieutenant Governor Cooney had to come to our rescue. And I find that incredibly antisocial of our downtown. It doesn't work. It hurts our economy because people see that and they say it is too complicated, it's too expensive, and I don't want to spend the time figuring out how to punch my license plate in just so I can get 15 free minutes and still get a ticket anyway. Just a couple of weekends ago, I was in Jackson Hole, and you know who has free parking? Jackson Hole, Wyoming. And they're a bustling tourist hub for the Teton Valley. And I did not have any trouble finding a parking spot on a busy Saturday. And I saw people walking around enforcing, and it was all timed restrictions. And I think that if we switch to that model, it would be so much easier for people to navigate. I also think that our current parking commission, they don't have any teeth to regulate the parking. They don't have any teeth to give really relevant recommendations, and that's why it's not working. So yeah, personally, I want to rip out those parking meters and move to something a little bit different.
So parking has been something that has been a topic on the commission since I was elected in 2019. When I was elected, the parking meters had gone in about 6 months before, and similar conversations. I think one of the things that we, especially as elected officials, need to be very cognizant of is that we are responsible for the budgets of the city. That includes parking. So right now there is about $675,000 left on the debt payment for the parking meters. I think that is something that should not be not be considered lightly. I think that we also need to be careful of not asking the rest of the taxpayers to cover that kind of expense. The whole point was for parking to be able to pay for itself. What we're finding, and it was what has been pretty consistent, is that we will always need to have a system where the parking lots and parking garages will need to be paid because they have to be maintained. We obviously want safe parking structures if you are parking in them and walking through. One of the areas that I think that we have a lot of room for improvement is in terms of enforcement. Most of the revenue that goes towards enforcement is really comes from the parking permits and any parking tickets that are paid. So if we can start thinking more creatively about street parking that is simply paid for through the enforcement, I think that we can probably find a lot of solutions. I do want to give the parking committee a chance to work through their recommendations because it was an ask of all of the businesses downtown. But parking is a very good example of like how complex local government actually is. And I will pass it. Okay, I've used up my time, but I'd love to talk more because the parking budget is something that is very fascinating. And when you start digging into it, I think it's all the more reason why we are being fiscally responsible with those budgets.
Well, not a day goes by I don't hear about our parking issues and the issues with kiosks. Even before I got on the commission, I was actually downtown doing the fall art walk. I heard from folks that asked, what the heck's with these kiosks? And I understand the need for folks who need to pay with coin and cash. I think the app works pretty well. I've actually used it for my father-in-law and my sister when she visits from Anaconda. However, this issue is a lingering issue that continues with our city. And that's why I brought together business owners, tenants that live downtown, workers that work downtown, And I brought them together and I put them in front of the city manager, the parking department, as well as our transportation systems department to talk about what's going on with these kiosks, as well as come up with some ideas. Out of that, we brought back the parking advisory committee. We actually gave business owners, tenants, and folks in the community a seat at the table when it comes to our decisions with parking. A debt was mentioned. Yes, we do have debt service that we need to cover on that. However, I think we also need to look at cost-cutting measures. We need to look at ways that we can cut our costs internally as well as with staff and equipment. We need to also look at paying down the debt or the principal. I think that's very important to look at, as well as out-of-the-box creative ideas that help pay down our parking. A lot of major municipalities in Montana do have parking, but they do it a little bit better than we do, and I think we can learn from them. Thank you.
Not gonna lie, I didn't know much about parking until I started running for city commission. That's just not something that I really focused on, I'll be completely honest. And I've done more reading about parking than I probably have read about my day job. So one thing I have learned is that the city of Helena is very passionate about their parking. So I kind of made it a point to reach out to city businesses, people downtown, people that work here, and kind of one common theme that I've noticed is we got to shed a little bit more positive light on it. The negativity that we shed on parking affects the businesses negatively. It affects being down here negatively. People might not want to come down here because they hear that parking is such a problem. But that's where we need to come together positively and try to come up with some solutions. Talking to the business owners down here, one thing is, more clear signage in permitted areas. People don't understand what the permit areas mean. Tourists come here, they might think that this is permitted all the time and they can't park there. So we can definitely do a better job on that. As far as the budget goes, I've also talked to people that have worked at the city for about 30 years. And yes, it's always been a continuum of parking here in Helena. I think we can look back and learn from our mistakes. We can talk to other cities and towns. So my day job, I work with other cities and towns across Montana, and I have actually talked to them about parking on some of the things that they do use. So we could look at other infrastructure that we have here. The city of Helena owns all their parking garages. So utilizing more of those permitted areas, I think will alleviate some of the issues as well. One issue that I heard from business owners are that a lot of those areas in the parking garages are empty. So leverage more of those permitted parking to help with the costs that we currently have. Once again, if we want to talk more about parking, I would love to, because I need to know more. Thank you.
Thank you. Agreed. This has been quite the hot topic of late. I would posit that if we just taught parallel parking, many of the problems would be solved, but I don't think that's what people are actually interested in hearing about. I think, I spoke with a bunch of the people who were part of the movement to get parking meters downtown 6 years ago. I could be wrong on that timeline. And I asked what the original intent was. Why did we do this? And the original intent was to promote turnover and vibrancy downtown. And I think if we asked anyone today, what is the goal of parking downtown? The answer is the same. So we know that we share a goal of promoting vibrancy downtown. I think it's how do we do it? And that is where the roads diverge. We do have debt to pay off. That is a realistic problem we have, and we can't just get past that. So knowing that we have to pay that off, we need to work with businesses and people who come downtown and talk about how we achieve that goal of promoting vibrancy downtown. I'm not sure I have that answer yet. But I do know that we need to do a better job communicating. I am also often surprised with the latest parking regulations because I don't have advance notice, and I think we have made a lot of changes lately. I think we need to make sure the parking commission is representative and that businesses who are not on it have access to it and know when they're meeting and are able to share their views. And I do think that currently our parking budget, the operations budget, is going up and the revenue is not meeting that. So I think we need to look realistically at making sure we are not continuing to raise the operations costs while not having revenue that is meeting it. Thanks.
You can keep it down there. Just come back this way.
You can go first for one question, right?
Sure.
All right, thank you, everyone. Our next question is, how can the city of Helena improve communication with the residents of Helena?
Great one for me to go first on. This appears to be a chronic problem, not just in Helena, but nationwide. Where do people get their news? It used to be the daily paper. It used to be Tom Brokaw and the nightly news. That's not how we work anymore. I think if you asked every single person in this room where they get their news, you would come up with almost as many answers as we have people. There's not one centralized place anymore. And that's not an excuse. I think that is a reality we have to confront. We have to look at all the different ways people are accessing information. We have to try to anticipate that. And then I think we also need to ask people, like, where are you looking and not finding things, which maybe I could phrase that better, but I think you know what I mean. I do know that the city is working with a new listserv that's modeled on the legislature and their interim committees, where people who are interested in open lands, parking, water, et cetera, can sign up to receive updates, which I think will do a lot for informed people who are looking for certain types of information, but it's not going to solve everything. And I think we have to be willing to try new things. I mean, the city has Instagram and Threads and all sorts of different things, and I think that's the right approach. We have to be proactive. We have to try new things. We have to put information in as many places as we can, and then see if we can figure out, like, what are the big gaps? Where are people still missing information, and perhaps what types of people are missing information, and think about where they're trying to find their news. I appreciate this is sort of a non-answer, but it's one we've been wrestling with for a long time, and I think it's one we just have to keep working at. Thanks.
When I worked at the city, we started Be Heard Helena, and I think we need to optimize that a little bit. Kind of what we have the groundwork laid, and like Melinda referenced, I think we need to figure out why it's not working. Talk to the community, talk to you guys, figure out why it's not working. And I will also say, when I started to run my campaign, getting my name out there, that was very hard. What do you use? Do you use Facebook? Do you use Instagram? Do you use the newspaper? I mean, I get it. I just launched a campaign a few months ago. So trying to figure out what works, I think, is going to be key. And that starts with everybody in this room. One thing that I've been doing is beverages with Ben in the mornings, every week on Thursdays. And I've gotten great feedback with that, just putting myself out there in a laid back setting, having some coffee, hearing what you guys want to talk about. I think that's kind of how we got to start, maybe getting back to the roots of just, sitting there face to face. I know not everybody has time to have coffee, so maybe we could do something like this in the evenings with the other commissioners and the mayor, but obviously avoid a quorum because I don't want to break any rules, but be able to communicate with you one-on-one and hear what is working and not working so we can fix these issues. I run a nonprofit and I get money from Congress, so I have to be very transparent in my day job as well. And so with that being said, the money that, like I said at the beginning, it is your money, it's the taxpayers' money, so we have to be transparent. So I think it is paramount that we have good communication between the commission and the citizens of Helena. And once again, we got to work on that together. And I think we start with what we have, Be Heard Helena, social media, and then what do you guys want to work with? So thank you.
I joined the city commission 3 years ago, and at that time I started showing up to things. And there's jokes about it online about me going places and you showing up, but I think that's important to meet people where they're at and to meet them, whether it's here at Brothers Tapworks or if it's at Hometown Helena or if it's at Alive at 5, because not everybody can attend a 4 p.m. meeting on a Wednesday night. Not everybody can attend a forum like this. Folks have extracurricular activities, homework. They've got to get their kid to an event. I've got a stepson at home that I'm just trying to coordinate dinner with right now. I think it's important that we meet people where they're at, and that's a part of this. Is I believe that trust happens one conversation at a time. I think it's vital that we can meet with one another face to face. I think the city's done a good job when it comes to hosting open houses for the Helena Forward, as well as the Metropolitan Planning Organization open house that's coming up. I think that's something I think we should continue. And I would like to propose that we do open houses for our budget presentations when we get our preliminary budget and our final budget. I think we should have quarterly updates with you and invite you to be a part of that conversation so you can ask questions up front, not just with the commission, the new city manager, but with our directors and our staff. I think that's important to have that. Again, we got to meet people where they're at. And I thank you for being here tonight, for showing up.
One of the things that has become very apparent to me over my past 5 years on the commission is that public comment can often be a very frustrating thing for folks who are coming to engage. Because we follow parliamentary procedure, there's often not an opportunity to have a back and forth with the commission. And it's for a lot of reasons. We want to follow parliamentary procedure. It's really important to having a functioning governing body. But I think one of the ways that we can overcome some of that frustration is by having regular opportunities for folks to interact and ask questions. So one of the things that I will do as mayor is hold regular town halls for folks to come and ask whatever questions they have, provide feedback, talk about things that are on their mind. And if I cannot provide the answer to you at that town hall, I will find out what the answer is and get back to you. I think that having those regular opportunities for folks to actually have an interaction with their mayor on city topics is a really important thing. And it, I think, will alleviate some of the frustration around public comment that we often see. I've started holding town halls throughout this campaign. My next one is on the 22nd, next week at 5 p.m. at the library. And at first, there were not a ton of people that came. And then the next one we had, a few more people came. And the next one, a few more people came. And it was fascinating because it was a variety of folks, some of which I'd never met before, that have different topics that they wanted to discuss. And I just having the opportunity to ask a question about what does it mean to plan for emergency services? How do you coordinate the county on emergency management planning? Those are the kind of issues that people sometimes just need a brief answer on. And if we can provide more opportunities in a casual, low stress environment, I think all the better, and an opportunity to really make government more open and transparent.
So a few months ago, my car was towed because my street was getting chip sealed, and nobody from the Public Works Department thought that that was important to say. They thought that giving 8 hours notice on Facebook was enough for me to move my car. It wasn't. What I wanted was for somebody to come through and put a hang tag on my door or just like knock on it and tell me what was happening. The next week, my water was shut off in the middle of the day because a water main had broken behind my house and they were repairing it. And again, I wasn't notified. I think, you know, the apps are great. Posting on Facebook is great. Talking to the press is great. But I think that what the city is failing at is that one-to-one direct communication. Everybody has to pay their water bills online unless they are physically walking it to the office. And I think something simple would be just adding all of those emails of people who are paying their bills to a listserv where press releases from the city are going directly to them because I think that it's embarrassing that I had to find out that our water quality was going to dramatically get worse. They were switching to Missouri water through Facebook, and it was behind a paywall on the IR. The city didn't communicate that on official channels until later. So I think that just changing direct communication, making the city website accessible so that you're not having to download a PDF to see when city meetings are, things like that, making sure that it is accessible and personal and direct to every single person who pays to live in this community.
Perfect. Thank you, everybody. Our next question, what are your plans for allowing the current citizens of Helena to age in place while increasing housing availability for those moving into the area?
Oh man, I get to tell another funny anecdote. So I got some Band-Aids on my hands. The other night I was going to greet my best friend. It was dark on 8th Street and went to go hug her, and I fell on the ground because the sidewalk was uneven. Moments before, I noticed that there was a runner in the street, and I was like, why isn't she using the sidewalk? And then I immediately found out. I think that increasing our budget for sidewalks and making that a priority for the city to maintain would be huge. I've got 2 friends on my block who just had babies and they use strollers. And having like a curb that slopes down gently for them, having sidewalks that are complete and they're not broken is important. It is public infrastructure that we all use, and individual homeowners shouldn't be on the hook for it. I also think that housing availability is a huge issue for people of every age, whether you're a young professional, you're a family, or whether you're a person who's aging. And personally, I want to ban short-term rentals. I want to ban Airbnbs and Verbos to open up doing that immediately would open up at least 221 housing units. And these are places that are in our community that are sitting empty and are being leveraged for being essentially sold out to the highest bidder, whoever can afford to spend, $200 a night in one of these spots. And I think that using ADUs and approving those accessory dwelling units, subdividing houses into duplexes and triplexes, I think is huge. And it is something that we can change in the zoning and say yes to. That would make a huge difference for people, no matter what age or what phase of their life they're in.
I love this question. Since 2010, the demographic of people 65 and above in Helena has grown by 70%, which is significant. We are an aging community for a lot of wonderful reasons. And I think that we need to be really creative and thoughtful about how we are thinking of housing as a continuum and addressing the challenges that happen at each piece of that continuum, particularly for those who are retired and those of low and middle income. One of the things that I would propose is opening up the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. One of the things that we have seen consistently is that it's a really great tool for developers that can apply for some of the very complex financing that it takes to develop low-income housing. But we don't have a lot of smaller developers who are being able to utilize that program. I would like to amend that resolution and provide financing for the development of accessory dwelling units, ADUs, for retired folks and folks who want to downsize. Because right now, there's really not a lot of options. If you live in a 3-4 bedroom home that you've been in for 30 years, you're ready to move to a condo or a townhouse, you're going to be paying the exact same amount as you're going to get for that home. And that is not a long-term viable financial option for most retired folks. So I think we need to be thinking more creatively about how we provide low interest financing to help move retired folks into ADUs or duplex their homes so that then you can open up additional units to the community. One other thing that I would really like to see is us go for the Safe Streets for All grant. We applied for that about 2 years ago. We were denied because we were a project of merit and we did not have an updated long-range transportation plan. We are now in the middle of updating our long-range transportation plan, which will make us much more successful in getting that grant and being able to provide more connectivity.
I think everyone deserves the opportunity to age in place, but not everybody can. I know that sometimes that can be economic or physical. For instance, my folks just moved out of the house that I grew up in. They just moved out of the house that they lived in for 43 years. They moved to something smaller, something that they could afford, saved a little bit of money. They're happier, they feel safer. Well, just as long as my dad picks up after himself, he'll be fine. But I'm proposing what is known as the Build Helena Plan. Number one, I think we need to build dense and diverse. We need to have, whether it's accessory dwelling units, mixed use buildings, as well as community land trusts. We need to uncomplicate the process, not just for big builders, but for smaller developers. We need to have pre-approved ADUs. I think that was something that could make ADUs a possibility today. I think we need to look at investing in our infrastructure, one of the cost drivers for housing. We need to listen to our local partners, from the Helena Housing Authority to Habitat for Humanity to the United Way, who's doing really good work, and help guide us through this process to make it a little bit easier. We need to look at diversifying our funding, looking at the Affordable Housing Trust Fund that we just employed or deployed. where we're able to create 72 new units worth of housing on the east side of town that's going to house 220 people. We just had the grand opening last week. I think that's a great start. It's a great example on how we could do that. We need to make the Affordable Housing Trust Fund easier to apply for. We need to expand its use, as well as we need to look at other opportunities like TIF funding and other grants. Thank you very much.
I think everyone deserves to age in place. Absolutely. And I think one way that we can help that here in Helena is to open the door with small grants and low interest loans to be able to make that home safer for someone to stay in. Whether it is, installing them a wheelchair ramp or handrails in their home, being able to provide that, I think is key. Not talking about the financing side, obviously, or the being able to afford it side. That's just being able to stay there safely. And another thing that we could do as a city of Helena is to really help out with utility bills. We could get more green infrastructure. We could help out with solar panels. Maybe not have them have such a higher utility bill for their water or their wastewater. Really optimize what we have in their homes already to be able to help them alleviate some of the bills that they have. And then obviously a second thing or third thing, I guess, is we've all talked about it, additional dwelling units, not only for additional income, but if someone needs to move in and take care of their elderly parents, or if they need in-home care, have a separate living area for that person to be able to stay there and care for them in place. And then obviously on the other side of that, for additional income. Me and my wife, life isn't always perfect sometimes. So we actually lived in someone's garage that was converted into an ADU. So that's one way that additional income can be made for people. Partnering with people or with organizations here in Helena, AARP, NeighborWorks, and local builders to help out with those additional dwelling units and maintenance and things like that people may not be able to take care of themselves. And then obviously opening up that the housing trust fund that we opened a few years ago, and to tap into that. So for every dollar that the city puts in, $5 has to be matched by the person. So to be able to use that, I think is one of the keys. Thank you.
Thank you. I admit that it was, I believe, after forum number 2 that I finally Googled aging in place, because I was like, we're all talking about it, but like, what is it? And it was interesting to me because aging in place is more than just the house itself. So I learned a little bit about that, and I think my fellow panelists here have raised many of the important issues, but I think it's about a community that allows us to age through all stages. It's not, just end stage, which I'm probably approaching faster than anyone else up here, but I think we need to look at how are we making it affordable to buy a home at any income level? How are we making our community accessible for all ages? And how are we supporting that through sidewalks, transit, the recreation and other opportunities we have. And specifically, I think we've all mentioned it, the Affordable Housing Trust Fund is the single greatest asset Helena has. We are so lucky to have it, and it is not being used. I think we do need to revisit the resolution. We need to ask people what the needs are, because we have funding, we have needs, somehow the two are not connected. So that would be step one. I think we really need to look at connectivity in our community holistically. It should not be the burden of the landlord, because that only comes up when you are doing a renovation or a new build, and all the parts of our community that have, the sidewalk you're walking on and then it suddenly stops. It's not addressed through our current program. So I think we have to prioritize connectivity. I think we have to be mindful of how active this community is and how hard it is to be active for 4 to 6 months out of the year. And we need to think about that. We need to make sure that this is a community that people can age through all age levels in comfort and accessibly. Thank you.
All right. Our next question will start, whoever wants to start, that works for me. How would you want the city to help our growing unhoused population in Helena?
So I think the last question and this one kind of go a little bit in hand. We got to use every tool that we have in our toolkit for this one. It's not a one size fit all. Like we utilized the $100,000 that we set aside in 2003 for the housing for the unhoused, the Helena Area Community Foundation. Just a few weeks ago at the city commission meeting was approved to start working through this process. I think that's one way that we use one of the tools that we have in our kit. The next one is obviously the Helena Housing Trust Fund, being able to make more housing for people here in the city of Helena. A great book that I read a few months ago called Abundance. It talked about the missing middle. So everything that you need, everything needs a revolving door. So to have extra housing for the unhoused, I think is how we can use one of those tools to fix the issue with the unhoused that we have here. And obviously working with the foundations that we have here in Helena already. I had a great meeting last week with the Helena Housing Authority, talking about their future plans on how the city of Helena can invest in those projects and really help out the community to add more housing. And then also, obviously God's Love, with the partnership that we have with them, continue to do that. And then obviously focus on the transitional and supportive housing that matches people with actually what they truly need. What do these people need? Where are they at in their lives? Obviously, everyone has a different issue, and so to be able to communicate with those residents and figure out what they need, I think is how we continue to grow as a community and find places for these individuals to have housing. So I think it's not a one size fit all. We have to use every tool in our kit, and I think that's how we make it happen.
Okay, so we're gonna go round, just so I don't.
I gave her ideas.
Anyone who knows me knows that this is a huge issue for me. It is one that I feel super passionate about, and one that I wish we had achieved more by now. The unhoused community members continue to look at a winter that's coming pretty quick, and we have no emergency warming shelter in our community. We talked about this last year. We talked about this the year before. We talked about it the year before. I am delighted that we recently had a meeting where a proposal was made to work with our emergency coordination group, the COAD, I will not get the acronym right, to have an emergency plan with triggers built in for weather, whether it's heat or cold. We would have a space identified. We would have a plan in place so that if we hit wind chill of 20 below, there is a place to go. When we talk about our unhoused neighbors, it's easy to put them all in one basket, but it's a very different group of people with very different needs. And I think sometimes it's overwhelming to say, how are we going to solve homelessness? But I think when we work with the affected community members themselves, we start to look at their immediate needs. We start to solve the most immediate problems. I think we can make progress. And I think that if you talk to some of the unsheltered neighbors, why are they in the tunnel by Anchor Park? Because it's shady, because there's a restroom nearby. These are very simple things that we might be able to provide to alleviate some of the most immediate needs. We're not going to solve homelessness, but I hope that we are able to provide some dignity for the people, because as I've said before, we are not going to let someone freeze to death in this town. We are not going to do it. So we have to come together and come up with solutions.
Housing and homelessness go hand in hand. This is, it's in the word, home. And we need to tackle both together. And it was mentioned meeting folks face to face and where they're at. Last March, I participated in the point in time survey down at God's Love. You meet folks and you find out there's different reasons why they're homeless. Some of us are one paycheck away. Some of us are one medical bill away. And there's others who there's a myriad of reasons why. And I appreciate the partners that are here tonight. And I appreciate the folks that are working hard on this. Like Helena Housing Authority has a great plan for Cruz Avenue for more housing units. I think the folks over at the United Way and the COAD have done a really good job bringing folks together to find solutions. St. Peter's Health has their frequent user program or FUSE program. These are programs that we can help partner and bring more folks to and bring more attention to, and we can help them apply for grants. We can help them with resources and be a partner in this because, again, it's going to take all of us to do this. I think along with that, we need to train our police department, and they've done a really good job interacting with folks that are unsheltered. I think this is another opportunity for us to get to know these folks and help them find the resources. And I appreciate Helena Police Department on helping these individuals find those resources. Again, it's going to take partnerships. The city of Helena, we're not the experts at this. We're going to need the experts at the table and folks being able to help us out solve this issue. Again, we need to build and provide more housing opportunities. And I think as a city, we can be a part of that solution. Thank you.
So we could have an entire forum on just this topic, and so 2 minutes is not going to do this justice. However, the city has an opportunity to truly be a convener of the folks who are working in supporting those who are homeless. That means leaning in on the things like the committees we already have, the Lewis and Clark Behavioral Health Advisory Committee. It means leaning in with our public health department that is funded through the county. It means working with our service providers in the community. One of the areas that, and you've heard it a little bit already, Helena Housing Authority is going through a thing called repositioning right now. So one of the issues that has led to, I think, a lot of these challenges is a amendment that was passed by Congress in 1986 called the Faircloth Amendment. And it made it so that public housing authorities could not build any additional new public housing units from 1986 all the way till now. Because Helena Housing Authority is going through this process called repositioning under HUD, it means that they are now going to be able to develop new housing units. A number of the properties that they are looking at partnering with the city on is on Cruise, which pairs very well with the Cruise redevelopment plan that the city invested about $100,000 in almost 4 years ago now. One of the things that I think that we could really be leaning in on is moving these projects along, including with the Helena Housing Authority, in a much more expeditious manner. So that means ensuring that we are getting their building permit fee waivers through the process immediately. It means that any development of streets and infrastructure, we are moving through expeditiously. If we are not at the table as Helena Housing Authority is going through repositioning, we are missing the boat, because it is truly a generational opportunity to expand the housing units and move people into permanent housing that is supportive and safe.
We need more transitional housing. We need an emergency shelter, and we need more subsidized housing units. That's a hard thing to tackle, but I am always going to say yes to those. I am always going to say yes to group homes. I am always going to say yes to supportive housing, because I know that those things work. One of my dear friends, Roz, you might have seen her. She drives a trike around downtown, and she's one of the sweetest ladies I've ever met. She cannot live on her own because of a traumatic brain injury that she had several years ago that left her wheelchair bound. And through a lot of work, she has gotten to the point where she can move around and be herself. And she couldn't have done that without transitional housing. I also think that the Helena Police Department has done a terrible job of interacting with our unhoused population. I live right above Anchor Park Tunnel. And after hearing the gunshot, when the man completed suicide, when an officer was doing a sweep of that tunnel, is going to stick with me for the rest of my life. The chalk outline of his body was there for weeks, and I had to walk by it every day on my way to work. Our police department isn't equipped to deal with our unhoused population. On my way over here, they were harassing a woman who was taking shelter under that tunnel. There were 3 cops on this one older woman, and she was just waiting for the library to open. She didn't realize it was a federal holiday and it wasn't going to open today. We need these things, and we need them now, and we don't need to keep talking about them. We just need to do something.
Perfect. All right. This is the last prepared question that I had for you. So we'll get to some of the crowd questions here in just a second. If you have thought of another question and you want to get it turned in, let Ben or Jamie wave them down and they'll come grab it from you. But if you had a magic wand and you could fix or change one thing in Helena, what would that one thing be?
When I was thinking about this question, I had a list of about 10 things. But I absolutely would have an emergency shelter built and provided with wraparound services that has long-term sustainable funding and access to substance abuse treatment and mental health services. In Helena, we are a community that is about, we are funded through about 35,000 people who live here. And we all know that our daytime population is almost double that. So we provide a lot of services to folks who don't actually pay into our tax base. That provides, it presents a lot of difficulties. And it presents a number of other difficulties when we know that public health is funded through the county. And so the city does not have a singular funding source to fund things like mental health services, emergency housing, substance abuse. All of that goes through public health under the county, which is all the more reason why we need to have good partnership. That is the one thing that I would absolutely do with my magic wand is build an emergency shelter that had long-term sustainable funding with a service provider that could provide all the wraparound services that one needs to be successful and really produce positive life outcomes. It is an area that we continue to struggle because I will not go into all the reasons why, but it's a struggle when God's love is our only option in terms of emergency shelter in Helena. And it is something that I would like to see us find solutions on. Because of funding, it is often very difficult because we rely on our service providers who also have limited budgets. But there are solutions that we can find, but absolutely, that's it.
Well, if I had a magic wand, continue making Helena the best place to live, work, enjoy, and retire. And, Helenans should be able to find a good paying job here, find an affordable home with a good, safe neighborhood, with complete streets, solid sidewalks, and access to those trails, parks, and open spaces that we all love. That's what I'd like to see for Helena, is that there's upward mobility, there's economic opportunity, and that together we can build a stronger Helena. Thanks.
If I had a magic wand, I'd fix the affordability crisis that we're currently having. If I could do that with a magic wand, fixing Helena's affordability crisis would really help strengthen everything, send out positive benefits to the entire community. It would bring stability for our families that are forced to move. Neighbors would be able to stay connected and supported. It brings opportunity. Homeownership builds equity, allows families to invest, save, and stay. And that makes for great families, makes for confidence in children, makes roofs over people's heads, which in turn helps public health and safety. Stable housing reduces stress, improves mental health, and lowers emergency costs for everybody across the community, which leads to economic vitality and community pride. Affordable housing keeps Helena accessible for teachers, nurses, public servants, and people who just make the city great. Being able to have everyone here, to be able to afford everything that we need to make a community go round, I think is how we can answer all these problems and questions and issues that we have. The affordability for, to find public servants to work here at the city, to find people to help out with the unhoused crisis, to be able to have that tool set for those people to be able to stay here in Helena, I think is what my magic wand would hopefully be able to do is fix the affordability crisis, and then it fixes everything. So thank you.
This question was definitely difficult, so I sought inspiration from my 13-year-old son. And his answer for what he would do with a magic wand is to change the driving age to 13, which decided not to go with that one. He also had thoughts on school cafeterias and what they could be serving. But, I thought about all the specific examples of things I would want to do with my magic wand. And I think, if there was one big thing that allowed us to do many other things, it would be to take back local control. The last several sessions of the legislature, we have lost the ability as a municipality to do so many things we used to be able to do. And that is what I would do. I would take it back. I would give municipalities the authority to do the things we need to do to maintain our cities and do what is right for our communities.
That sounds way better than lowering the driving age to 13.
If I had a magic wand, I would give us a bus system that works. And then Melinda's son wouldn't have to drive. And that's something that I really want to tackle as your next commissioner is I want a bus system that is that has routes throughout the city that make sense and that everybody can access. Right now, we've got a curb to curb system that kind of acts like an Uber, and our ridership is through the roof with that program. People use it, people want it, but because of the way that it's administered, not everybody has access to it. You have to plan these rides a day in advance, and sometimes things change, and you can't wait for another bus to come. I've had customers that have gotten stranded because they missed their ride and they couldn't get another one because it was too late in the day. But if we had fixed routes, if we worked with the county and with Helena College and with Carroll College to make a real connected bus route, then I think that would really change things for our community, for people who maybe live in these far-flung neighborhoods and can't get to the work that could pay them a higher wage than wherever they are, make them less car dependent, help them get to their healthcare appointments, things like that. It really is a public health issue. It's an economic issue, and I think that it's something that every great city in the nation invests heavily in. So that's what I would do if I had a magic wand.
Great. All right. So first audience question I want to ask is, what inspired you to run for this office? I know it was hinted on a little bit when you did your openings, but want you to go a little bit more in detail about what inspired you to run for this specific office.
Oh, I'll go first. Yeah, thank you. Well, 3 years ago, we lost Eric Fever, and I reached out to the mayor and a couple city commissioners and asked, how can I help? And I inquired about the process. And after going through it, I was appointed to the city commission, and I've enjoyed the work that we've done. And then when Mayor Collins announced that he was not going to run, I considered, I had conversations with folks saying, what do you think Helena needs? What do you think Helena's missing? Those conversations turned into, hey, we need to work on parking, public transportation, housing. How do we help with the homelessness situation? I felt that we had more work to do, and I wanted to take a chance and go for it. And one of the biggest encouragers in my life was my wife, Laura. And she says, I think you should go for it. She's like, you show up to things already. She's like, you're participating, you're working with the partners that you're going to need to partner with as mayor. I think you should go for it. And after a long time of discussing it with friends and family, I had the encouragement to run for mayor. And I believe that we literally can build a stronger Helena, one where we can actually have more affordable housing. We just have to find, I've got a plan, but I think we need to be able to put some differences aside, and we need to work positively, because I think we've got a lot of great things going on here, and I want to continue that. But we've got a lot of challenges in front of us. And that's something that I intend to work on as mayor. Thank you.
I know it'll sound a little cheesy, but I guess to continue on my family's legacy. Like I said, I'm third generation public servant, water professional, and I truly do care about the city of Helena. I was already a public servant for you. I worked around the clock for you as a water treatment operator and a water treatment superintendent. I've worked at 7 a.m. on Christmas morning during a transmission line break for everybody. Hopefully you didn't realize that happened, because that means I did my job. So to be able to do that on the inside is really what makes me want to do things on the policy side. Being able to make an impact on the policy side, I think is incredible that we have this opportunity to do that, to be able to run for this position and make decisions for the people of Helena, and understand the decisions that you make affect every single person in this room and in this city. When I made decisions as the water treatment superintendent for the budget that we had, the multi-million-dollar budget, I understood that every single dollar that was in that budget was from you, and every dollar that went into the city was for you. And so be able to pass those budgets now on the commission side, I think would be just amazing, to be able to continue to work for you. And I I think that one of the biggest things that we do as a commission is be fiscally responsible. And I do that in my day job. I run a multi-million-dollar budget in my day job. I've done it for the city already. And so to continue that fiscal responsibility, I think is the duty that every single one of you in this room deserves. So thank you.
When I decided to run the first time, it seemed simple at the time, but there were no female candidates. And I don't believe that we should have uncontested races at all. And I think we need a diversity of candidates all the time. I think it's really important that people see themselves represented in their government. And I did not see myself represented by the candidates. And to be clear, I don't think it has to be quite so strict about, seeing yourself actually represented, but it's about values. And I think I have loved my job so far. I am inspired by the things I get to learn and the people I get to work with. And so I decided to run again because I feel like I'm not done. I feel like I feel like around the 1 year mark, I felt like I knew what I was doing. And now I really feel like I have the opportunity to affect some real change. And I think I love seeing how many candidates there are. I think it is fantastic that we do not have uncontested races anymore. This is all I wanted, even if it means I have to campaign a lot harder. This is actually a really good thing for our community. So I'm inspired to keep doing this job for now and to reach out to people whose voices I don't think are always heard. I think the people who come to the city commission meetings are great and I love hearing from them, but there's a lot of people who don't reach out, who don't know how to reach out, who don't feel comfortable reaching out. And I take that responsibility really seriously and I do my best to try to find those voices and make sure they feel like they are being represented.
When I first ran in 2019, I ran originally because as a teacher, I could control everything that happened in my classroom and create a safe environment for my kids to learn the life skills to improve life outcomes. And then I went on to work in education policy, and I could help school districts create similar safe classrooms in schools that were supportive of building kids' dreams. But what I was seeing was that all of the things that often negatively impact kids happen outside of the school walls. Oftentimes for kids that are the most vulnerable that have cannot afford in the winter to go up and ski, do not have the positive adult role models to make good life decisions. And so I wanted to get involved at the city level to help improve policy to build a community that is great for every child that grows up here. Since joining the commission, what I have found is that I've really developed an expertise in a lot of different areas to understand what levers to pull to get different results. A lot of the time it takes working with people whose policy perspectives you don't agree with, and you have to work really hard to find common ground. And what I found is that if you can bridge some of those divides and find a path forward, you're often going to produce policy results that are better for the entire community and that everyone in the community feels like they have some stake in. So that's one of the things that I continue to bring to this work. It's really just truly an honor to be able to serve a place that helped raise you. It's funny, I'll get notes every once in a while from some of my grandparents' friends. And I think I come by this honestly because my grandpa was a prolific public commenter to the Helena City Commission back in the day. And it's just truly special to be able to serve the place that made you the person that you are. And I want to continue to give back and make the community the place it can be and should be for the family that my husband and I are building.
So when I decided to become an AmeriCorps Vista in 2017, Linda Cletus, current school board member, was the person that I talked to and the person who convinced me. And living in the same community with her has been like just having my favorite auntie around. And when she decided to run for school board, that really lit a fire in me. Because she cares so much about this community and she fought so hard for me to come here, sight unseen to Montana, to get things done for this community. And that's truly what moves me is I'm your neighbor. I'm not a lobbyist. I don't have an agenda. I just really want to work hard for this community. I want to be a true representation of what everybody needs and what everybody wants. And I want to work hard. And no matter what the outcome is, I'm going to keep working hard. In my job, I advance Native American artists and makers. And for fun, I help people make friends and stay in this community. And I work for candidates that I truly believe in, and that's what I want to bring to this job, and that's the fire that I still and will always have in my heart. So thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you all. Our next question here is about the unfortunate leaving of our current city manager. But there's a proposal that has been brought forward that would say that the new city manager would be in place by December 15th. So the question is, should the commission slow down this process and be more deliberate about it and allow for more public input into the process of picking the next Helena city manager?
My answer is short, yes.
All right.
Thank you for the question. We actually have a special meeting again tomorrow, December 15th. I've not heard that. And in our packet that we have from our consultants, CMS, that are helping conduct this search, we have a 12 weeks scheduled according to the proposal that they've put forward. And without an end date necessarily, I think the city before has gone out for multiple rounds of recruitment if the commission didn't like the pool of candidates. And I don't think that we should presuppose that there is only going to be one round of recruitment. I will say that the city in the last 5 years has worked really hard to build stability. And 3 years ago, we went through what was called the city manager recruitment assessment. And it was to review the previous 2 city manager recruitment processes and figure out what went wrong, what went right, and how to make it more consistent into the future. So that if a city manager ever retired, resigned, was hit by a bus, the city commission could pull out this assessment and have a process to move expeditiously. We know that oftentimes when there are vacancies, it often produces quite a bit of chaos, and that means instability. And so my goal is to be able to find a city manager who will provide stability to the organization so that our employees have a clear path as to where they're headed, particularly as it pertains to our strategic plan, and a city manager that understands our strategic plan. But I wholeheartedly believe that we should be thoughtful about the process and exactly why we developed the city manager recruitment process assessment so that we could pull it off the shelf and move with a purpose when there was a retirement like Tim's.
One of the first things I did when I got on the city commission was to participate in the city manager search. I got the opportunity to work with Manager Burton. I worked with him underneath the Bullock administration when he was our chief of staff. I appreciate the work that he's put in these last few years. But short answer is yes. I think we need more public input when it comes to this. It's a big decision. And I believe that the new mayor, the new commission, and the directors need to have a chance to be a part of this conversation, as well as you. I invite you to be a part of the conversation, to participate, listen in, offer public comment to these meetings that are going to be coming up over the next coming weeks and months. I believe that the Helena Citizens Council can provide some good input. I'd really like to see members participate in that discussion, as well as our staff. I think we've got some great directors, some folks that can fill in if we need to be an interim. I think Tim's done a really good job offering opportunity to our directors to participate and sit in the chair and run meetings as a city or as an acting city manager. And I think that's something we need as well. We've got the holidays coming up. We've got a new commission coming up at the beginning of the year. I think, not saying that we need to slow down. I just think we need to be thoughtful. We need to have public input, and I think that we need to allow the new mayor and the new commission to participate in the process, because it's going to be one of the biggest decisions that we'll make as a commission moving forward. Thanks.
If elected to the commission, absolutely, I would love to be part of the process. And one thing that I saw at the city when I worked there was one thing that I would like to bring up to the next city manager is succession plans. So we don't run into this issue again, or for when like I left as a superintendent to be able to carry that over. So to have the process be too fast, I think we need to be as transparent as we possibly can and work together to get that process out there to be transparent for everybody to see what's going on. I don't know if the packet says, I saw the timeline today, and I don't know if the special meeting tomorrow, hopefully will lay some more things out for us. But I don't think it says it's going to be hired before the new commission gets in. I would absolutely love to be part of that process. As a city employee, I understand the reverberations of a rushed decision on that trickles down all the way to the water treatment plant operator, believe it or not. We felt it down there. So to be transparent for everyone in the community and the workers, I think everyone deserves due process. And to be involved is, I think, the biggest thing that we should do to slow down the process. I think we need to all look at what this decision really means for the community before we make a decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, I think we should slow down. And I think the meeting tomorrow is the first real opportunity we will have to talk about this in any meaningful way. So I'm really glad that we are having the discussion, and I hope all of you will either come or submit comment in order to help us think this through. I think we've been on record multiple times saying a national search takes 3 to 6 months. And I think the timeline we have suggests that it's possible we could hire someone before the end of the year. I don't believe that that is a good idea. I think we need to ensure the active participation of the new commission. And I think while it is theoretically possible to find a qualified candidate by December 15th, I don't want to find one, I want to find 10. And I want the community to have a choice. And I think we need to take the time to make sure we do a thorough search that allows for maximum participation. And I think we need to get community input before we do an initial screening. What are we looking for? What are we screening for? I think a really critical first step is community engagement with key stakeholders to identify what are the things we value most, what are we looking for in a new manager? And I think to really do it right, to get full community participation, we have to slow this down, we have to be thoughtful, and we really have to allow newly elected members to be a part of it.
All right. Our next question from the audience, and this is a question I never thought I would see myself asking, but as we see ICE around the country continuing to take people without due process, masked, and not identifying themselves, what do you plan to do to protect the immigrant community in Helena from these unprecedented threats?
Well, I think the diversity of our community is what's the best thing about our community. That we're all not from the same background, same race, economic background, etc. I appreciate folks that have moved here, that have opened up businesses, that work and live and raise their children in our community. I've had conversations with city staff and as well as the city manager, current one, is that we won't sign anything that says we're going to agree to be a part of the 257G program. You know, I was dismayed when the incident happened this summer. That can't happen again. And I know that folks are worried across the United States with what's happening in places like Los Angeles and Chicago. You know, there's ways that we can fight back. There's ways that we can resist, and there's ways that we can not condone. We can find legal ramifications, as well as working together with key stakeholders, as well as the folks in this room. I'm committed to working for everybody in this community, and that's what we're in. We're in the people business. We work for you, and I have. When we sign an oath, when we sign up, we the vote to protect or swear to uphold the Constitution of the United States, the state of Montana, and the charter of the city of Helena. And in that says we work for you, and that's what I intend to continue working for. Thank you.
Absolutely. To continue to not be part of the 287G program, which is the Helena PD will not participate in immigration issues. I think that HPD and the citizens and the civilians of Helena, we deal with civil issues. So not only do we not participate in 287G, but we also have a policy at HPD, Helena Police Department of 415, that we stay involved in only civil issues. We do not carry over, we do not spill over into immigration issues. Our Helena Police Department is busy enough taking care of the issues that we've already talked about tonight. So to stay on civil issues, I think, is how we maintain to continue to keep the citizens of Helena safe, is use the resources that we have in place already to take care of who we have and not getting involved with those issues and making sure that there is due process if something does happen. And unfortunately, we're sitting here tonight because there was an issue. And I think what happened was we just had never talked about it as a community. We didn't think that it would ever happen to us, right? So now, unfortunately, we can have this discussion and make plans on how to protect the people of this community, to have due process, to make sure that everyone is being treated fairly. And as your commissioner, I will definitely stay out of 287G and continue to protect the people of Helena, no matter what. Thank you.
Thank you. I think the question was, what will you do to protect immigrants in our community? And my answer is I will do everything I can and everything we are legally able to do to protect immigrants in our community. I think one of the first steps is making sure everybody knows their rights and knowing what the policies of the city of Helena are. We have not signed a 287G, that's been stated. I have no intention of being a part of a 287G, but we need to make sure the people in the community know what that is, know what it means, and know what protection it affords them. I think we also need to make sure we are doing training for residents, city staff, and law enforcement officials on constitutional rights, both US Constitution and Montana Constitution, to make sure people are aware of their rights and are able to articulate those if they need to. I think we need to make sure all laws are being followed, and I do think a community discussion is important. I've asked for that in order for us to have a conversation about what policies we have, what policies we may wish to have, what the space between those is, and how do we make changes we need to make to ensure full protection for everyone. As has been noted, we are having this conversation for a reason, and I do not want to see something like that happen in our community again.
It is never appropriate for local government to be getting involved in immigration enforcement. And I think that is something that I hope the next commission will continue to stand by. We are living in a time where the federal government is causing a lot of chaos, and that makes things very, very difficult when we partner with the federal government on lots of different things. A good example is when Logan Pallister was arrested, we had to partner with ATF in order to ensure his arrest. Really important partnership. But given the chaos of the federal government right now, we've had to really figure out how do we actually have these engagements and not put our community at risk. I think if we continue to follow our own policies, that we don't ask about immigration status, that is an HPD policy currently. They do not ask for immigration status, and it's still in our policy. I think that's very important. But altogether, we need to be sure that we are being clear as a local government that immigration enforcement is not our job. It is not something that we should be engaging in. And we do have an opportunity, I think, to ensure that we're creating a community where neighbors are watching out for one another. And we've consistently had that on the whole. But as long as we are continuing to really buy into the notion that we protect one another, and that we have each other's backs, I think that can help alleviate some of the chaos that the federal government has brought to a lot of different local communities, including Helena, Montana.
I know that we don't have a 287G in place. I will never, ever sign an agreement for that. But we don't have the facilities. And also, I believe on a fundamental level, it's wrong. I'm Jewish, and secret police like ICE are abhorrent to me. We did that once and never again. I think that local organizations have done an excellent job of spreading information about what immigrant rights are. I've got some posters hanging in my store right now on the windows that tell you exactly what your rights are. I give out know your rights cards to my customers, and but I think that the city and our police department need to be partners in that. The police shouldn't just be the ones enforcing, but they should also be doing education. I know that there were some really inexcusable lapses in judgment with some of our local law enforcement with the arrest of Christopher Martinez Marvan. And I want to make sure that that never ever happens again, whether that looks like better training for our law enforcement officers, or putting officers who violate those constitutional rights on administrative leave, or excusing them permanently from the force. I think that we need to have teeth and we need to look out for each other. And I don't know. I love El Sabor de Jalisco, and I would put my life on the line if that meant keeping them in the country. But yeah, no, we need to look out for each other, and we need to stand up when something's wrong.
All right, thank you. And I love a good segue, so thanks, Emily. As we are currently seeing a federal government shutdown and impacts to services from the federal government through not only the shutdown, but the layoffs of federal workers, the cutting of federal programs, what do you think the city of Helena can do to help our fellow citizens as we go through this tumultuous time?
So my husband is a federal worker. A lot of my friends are federal workers. And I think right now, we need to be looking at the partnerships that we have in this community, and just making sure that we're creating that safety net when we are a community that is mostly government workers. We need to have better support networks, because I know that there are members of that community, people who are federal workers who can't miss a paycheck. We are in the position right now where it's, if one of us has to be out of work for 6 months, that's great. You know, like we can do that, we can make that work, but many families are not in that position. And I think that yeah, it's, no matter what that looks like, I would love to talk to people about what that looks like, because as we've seen from the current president's record, 4 out of 5 of the years that he has been in office, we have had federal shutdowns. That's inexcusable, especially in a community like ours. And I know that that is meant to break down the people that serve us. And I think that as a government town, yeah, we just need to. We need to be together. We need to look out for each other.
You know, when there is chaos and gridlock at the federal level, it's all the more reason why we need to ensure that our local government is operating at a high level and delivering services consistently to our community. I think that we need to ensure that we are able to mitigate as much damage as possible by being a stable, responsible, proactive local government. I know of 2 businesses in town right now who have small business association or administration, SBA loans that are currently on hold because of the government shutdown. They need signatures from SBA so that they can get their funding to move ahead in some of their businesses. One of the areas that I serve on is the National League of Cities. And I serve on a few different committees, but one of them is the Small Cities Council. And we had a meeting last week, particularly about the government shutdown. And I brought this example of what some of the impacts look like on the ground. It means that two businesses in our community are not getting the capital they need to open and start providing services to our community. And so through the National League of Cities, I've been very active in helping really build a narrative to bring to members of Congress, including our own delegation, about what things look like on the ground. And every day that they continue to choose to not reopen the government and not provide quality health care, that hurts us. And it hurts us in a very real way in terms of the economic vitality of our community. And so I think those are some of the ways that we can lean in at the local level to really be pushing good federal policy, which means keeping the government open and ensuring people have access to affordable health care.
During the pandemic, I worked for the Montana Department of Labor and Industry because we heard from businesses across the state and across the community that weren't able to find enough workers. Now there's about 700 job openings down at Job Service, and the city of Helena's got quite a few as well. I think there's opportunities for our federal partners and friends if they're looking for work. We've got some opportunities, whether it's on the HPD, the Helena Fire Department, as well as other city opportunities, and at the state level through Job Service. You know, the city of Helena just voted to approve $280 million bond to build a new high school, fix up an old high school, as well as fix up Kessler Elementary. That signals to folks that Helena is open for business. That's a major investment that businesses and employers look for. And I applaud the city of Helena for doing that, or the people of Helena for doing that. And this is something that is one of those signals to folks. And I believe there's job opportunities. And, you know, I meet with a group once a week, and it's called Vision Helena. And it's a collaboration between the chamber downtown, Visit Helena as well. And we're well aware of this. We saw when the issues started rearing their ugly head last spring, and Canadians said they're not going to come here. I thought, well, we should do everything we can to bring those folks here. And we need to all be ambassadors for this community, whether it's smiling at somebody, telling somebody who just started a business like the folks who opened up Everest out on Euclid. I think we need to go and say thank you for doing business here in Helena, because those create those economic opportunities, those jobs. And also the city needs to work at approving more affordable housing, which can provide housing opportunities for folks who might have lost their job and lost their income at the federal level. I think we need to do everything we can for those folks, because we're a government town. We've got 4 types of government here, and we need to stick together.
Fortunately for the city of Helena, we approve a budget in July, so we'll continue to have our city services, which is a good thing. Second, I work for the government, and fortunately, my job right now, I'm sitting here right now. Unfortunately, I wasn't allowed to get some training with the EPA, but essential services are continuing in that way. And so there are things that are essential that will continue. And like we had mentioned a few times already tonight, when things don't function, we will feel them throughout the community. And I think what we need to do first is maybe as a whole city, as a society, is understand where we will start to feel those negative effects first. Fortunately, some things will be more acute in feeling those effects, whether it be your healthcare or things like that. And as a community, understanding where we will feel those effects first, being able to come together for, luckily situations like me, I'm an essential employee, so I continue to work, to know that maybe my neighbor isn't a essential employee and be able to help out with some issues that they may have in a month from now if the government doesn't reopen and they don't have a paycheck. Knowing how those situations work across the community, I think is maybe something that we can control here at home. Obviously, we're not going to influence the decision makers in Washington, D.C. by any means in this room, maybe a little bit from Governor, but he's gone. But at this point, I think, the ship has sailed, so we have to look at ourselves and see where we can help out each other, here in the community to deal with those issues. So thank you.
This is a tough question for me because as a result of actions at the federal government, I will be losing my job at the end of this year. So this one's personal, and this one's hard for me. I think when I think about what can we do, I have this overwhelming sense of I don't know. But when forced to answer the question, I think we can look big picture. I think, like Andy said, keep Helena vibrant, keep creating jobs, create opportunities for people who may be losing their jobs to find new work here or to want to come here and invest. I think on a micro level, we can do things like make sure all of our utility payments have an opportunity for appeal or for freezing for people who may have lost a job and can't make a payment this month. More of a big picture, I think we need to support our nonprofits as much as we can because they are our safety net and they will be overburdened if this goes on much longer. I think we need to ask people on the front line of this problem, what do you need? What can we do as a city? Because, our role prior to an event like this was not to address something like this, but that doesn't mean we have to say no. I think we need to say, how can we help? And think about the impacts to people all across the community who might be short-term out of work or much longer term.
All right, thank you very much. So that is the end of our questions. Thank you, everybody in the audience, for providing us with some of those, and thank all 5 of you for being here and answering them. I do want to give each of you a quick minute to give us a closing and a wrap up before we head out of here.
Thank you, everybody, so much for being here. I really appreciate you coming out in the snow. One thing that I want to tackle is plowing and the way that we plow so that your cars aren't buried in on a day like this. But yeah, no, my name is Helena McKnight, and I'm practical. I'm curious. I'm not an expert, but I want to learn, and I want to serve you. And I hope to bring the energy and candor that my friends in the audience already know to this position. And yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate your vote.
First, thank you to the Lewis and Clark County Dems for hosting this tonight, and thanks to all of you for being here. We are at a point in Helena, as I mentioned at the beginning, that we are going to be making some pretty significant decisions in the next few years that are going to impact the community for the next few decades. We have an opportunity to pursue projects that will provide generational change for our entire community. That means things like completing the Montana Avenue Rail Crossing, which will not only make it easier for folks to get to work and school on time, but it also means that there is a safe crossing from west to east for Centennial Trail across Montana. Those are some of the big projects that we need to be pushing in Helena for completion over the next 3, 4, 5 years. I truly believe that the next mayor needs to bring a clear vision, a strong work ethic, and a commitment to bring folks together to move our community forward. I believe that we can have safe neighborhoods where kids can play and retired folks can age in place. I'm proud to have the work ethic and the expertise to really move the needle for folks in Helena, and I would be honored to have your vote.
Thank you very much for being here tonight. Lewis and Clark Democrats, thank you for hosting. Thank you to Brothers Tapworks for having us here, and thanks to the staff. I didn't get to say during my magic wand moment, free beer, but I missed my chance. But no, thank you very much for being here, because this is what it's all about. We have to show up for each other. And that's what I've done since day one being on the commission, is going to events and listening to you. Because when I make that vote and when we ask those questions, you're top of mind for me. It's what I hear when I go to a Live at 5 and someone bends my ear and says, what about that roundabout? Or it's when I'm about to go fishing on Father's Day with my stepsons and my wife, and I hear from folks that live at the Atlas building and say, why am I continually ticketed? I just pawned off everything I own to take the boot off my car, and I got a boot the very next day. And so then I put the landlord, the tenants, and the city manager together in an email, and I said, I hope you guys can figure this out. This is what
you know, there are things that aren't going to go right all the time. And we have to understand that as people here in the community and work together and listen to each other and understand why sometimes things are the way they are. And being a city employee on the inside, I can convey some of those messages. Like right now, there's a project going on called the Crosstown Connector. It's for the city of Helena's water line. It connects the main treatment plant from 10 Mile to the Missouri. It's the main artery between there. And I've gotten questions on why we can't do it in the summertime when the water would taste better. Well, the reason being is if that pipeline were to break in the summertime, we would have significant water issues. And so to have that knowledge on some of these things that are inside the city, I think is what the commission really needs. Nobody knows everything, but I can bring some expertise and be able to convey some of those messages to the city on what's going on in the city in public works and issues and projects and things that are going on and be able to speak with you. I'm Ben Rigby. Appreciate your vote. Have an excellent night.
Thank you, and thank you to our hosts, the Lewis and Clark County Democrats and brothers. I want to keep doing my job. I love my job. I feel like we've had some great momentum on some things that matter most in this community. For example, with transit, you'll hear that the numbers, the ridership is up on the current transit system, but as was mentioned, I have a friend who's visually impaired, and he's one of the people who can't get a ride because the numbers are up. So I think we have momentum, but we really need to close the deal, if you will, on some of these things. And I think I'm well positioned to listen to people and figure out how to take those ideas and move them forward. With sidewalks, I remember speaking with the late Commissioner Fever during our campaigning where we were both jockeying for who could knock more doors. He beat me hands down, let's be clear, about the Shel Silverstein poem Where the Sidewalk Ends. You know, you're walking down the sidewalk, boom, it ends, which for us was not a big deal. We could step around. For some people in the community, a really big deal. I think we need to start looking at issues like that, not as a, that's just Helena, and about a how do we take community ownership for the big issues like sidewalks and connectivity. With housing, we've talked a lot about housing tonight, and I think it is time to look at the tremendous asset we have in the Affordable Housing Trust Fund and make it work. We have the funds, we have the needs, we need to bring those two things together. And lastly, I think, you know, when I was the interim city manager during the pandemic, we put a picnic table outside of 10 Mile. Look at what we have today. And that's not anything we did, it's what we didn't do. We didn't get in the way. We let people downtown do what they needed to do. And the vibrancy that has come back into our downtown is incredible. And I want to be a part of a commission where we are saying yes to people, where people come and are excited to partner with us. And we can take some of this progress we have and really, for lack of a better term, because I'm exhausted, close the deal on some of the great things that our community is ready to do. Thank you.
All right, let's give all 5 of our candidates a round of applause. Thank you so much for braving the snow to join us and answer some questions. I think we all said it, but I'll say it again. Thank you to Brothers for giving us the space to be able to do this. Please make sure that you tip them well and buy, you know, a soda or something on the way out so we can continue to support such a fantastic local business. But that is all that we have. So thank all 5 of you for joining us. And don't forget to vote. Your ballots will probably be in your mailbox on Saturday. So let's make sure that we vote and get some of these wonderful people elected. Thank you, everybody.